Hello and welcome to the channel. I am doing a live stream here today, and I haven't posted anything uh, recently because I was not feeling well. As you guys can see, I've deployed the shawl that has been popular on very other videos that I've had here. But anyways, I wanted to do a quick review as to try to get new content out every day. So this is a review on a gem that I found in the Netflix called The Umbrella Academy. Now, before we get started, I'm going to do my pros, cons, a little overview about what the show is about, and then I'm going to let you know whether or not to watch it. Before we start off, for any people who are watching this that are parents that have kids, this show is not geared towards kids. It is very violent. There is profuse language and other adult content, to say the least. So, this is a show aimed more towards adults or young teens or in that range of viewership. So this is not a Marvel kind of a show. This is more of the extreme universe. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let me talk about the show. This show works because I think of it a lot like a dysfunctional X-Men. In a lot of ways, this show is if the X-Men grew up with a dysfunctional father figure and then they all split up and then came back together. That's vaguely what I think about. But the premise of the show is that there are 47 kids born all at the same time, all on the exact same date, all on the same day. And an eccentric billionaire takes 7 of the kids and raises them as his own, grooming them to become the next wave of superheroes. Long story short, through the course of their life, things happen and they grow up and they all split apart, each choosing their own path and each using their abilities in their own way. One becomes a vigilante, one becomes a supermodel, one goes to space, one develops a drug addiction, and the other one jumps and gets stuck in time. If that premise sounds wacky to you, it gets even stranger. Now, here's the interesting thing about this series: there are a lot of superhero shows that are out. What makes this interesting is how they infuse the adult themes within a really out there premise. When you think of the premise of the show, and even if you're just an occasional browser and you watched a trailer, it seems pretty far out there. When you actually watch the show, though, it in a very weird way makes sense. Don't know why, but it just works. um, by the time you get to the second or third episode, seeing a giant person walking across the moon's surface no longer feels odd, because the way the show drops you into it, it doesn't apologize for the aspects of the superhero stuff that it has in it, but rather it puts a mature spin on the theme. So, the basic premise I just laid out for you. Now, there's a whole lot of things that go into it, but I wouldn't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen the show. And I mean, there's a deep bunch of plots and subplots and things with the characters that you can go into very thoroughly. And maybe on another video, I'll actually break down each individual episode and tell you what I think of them. But this is just a general overview of the show as a whole. So that's about the simplest way I could boil it down. But the show is much more than the sum of its parts. So let's start with the characters. Now, right off the bat, and I'm putting this under my positives, there is a actor named Robert Sheehan. He plays the character of Klaus Hardgrove. This is by far the funniest character I've ever seen on a television show. He plays a flamboyant drug addict, I think is what they put on there, and I think that's a good way for me to put it if we're being politically correct. And his ability is to talk to and communicate with the dead, which I think is a good way to explain why he is the way he is. And not just the dead itself, but as you go and progress through the series, he has massive. It's almost like he's a beacon for the dead, and he uses um, other substances to kind of drown out the voices that he hears. Um, you have one of the ones that's called number five, or the boy, because this billionaire doctor didn't name all of his kids. Terrible father. Um, but he has the ability to jump within uh, places in time. He calls them temporal portals, and he jumps too far and gets stuck. And that's pretty much where the story kicks off. So he has an essential role. You have Ellen Page, who is one of my favorite actresses. If you don't know who she is, she's been in several different movies and also guest spots on television shows. She's a very good actor. She plays Vivina, which is sort of the main narrator slash villain. You'll see what I mean as you go through. And so those are pretty much the characters in a nutshell. I mean, you have Diego and the other ones, but like I said, this is more of a general overview, so I'm not going to break everything down. I'm just going over the show as a whole. So, um, the pros of this show, it has some very good writing. The lighting and the direction is fantastic, and most importantly, the fight scenes are phenomenal. The choreographing for the fight scenes is top notch for anything I've seen television wise. Like, if anyone has seen Netflix's Daredevil, which on Netflix is arguably has the best choreographed fight scenes available on the network, this show is like right up there. They spent some pretty top dollar, and you can see it in the production. There are quite a few beautiful episodes. I don't want to give anything away, but they bend and manipulate and use lighting in certain episodes that is just astonishing. And it really puts you in the moment with the characters at the time. You feel everything that's going on. And I think the most important part of watching a show is that you're invested. And one of the most important things, this is only 11 episodes, I believe. I'm doing a double check here. Yeah, I believe it's 11 episodes because I remember, no, 10. This is probably one of the shortest things I've seen on Netflix with just 10 episodes. And yet, in that 10 episodes, every character has an arc. The main story is somewhat resolved. And you get introduced into this world while still not giving them enough away to where they're forcing you to see a second season. Honestly, if this didn't get another season, you would be happy with what you saw, but they leave the door wide open for something to continue. And from what I heard, they renewed it. But the overall good here outweighs any bad, which brings me to my cons. The first few episodes feel like the directors didn't know which way they were going with the show. The dialogue is very clunky. Some of the lines felt like they were kind of forcing the humor, and it's strange, really strange. Like, you got to stick with it. Strange. There is some things that happen at the end of the first episode that get you hooked, but getting to the end can be a little jarring for anyone who doesn't keep an open mind when trying to watch this, because a few things that happen in the episode make you go, wow, I don't know if I want to really, this is kind of out there. But if you stick with it, then you invest your time. I remember telling a coworker about this show, and as soon as she got done watching the first episode, she immediately watched all 10 episodes the next day. It's one of those shows. Now, the problem with shows like these, and especially a weird premise, is that it will turn certain people off because certain people don't like the wacky, out of the box thing. And I think that this show is not so much about the crazy superhero aspects. I think the show is about humans, it's about people, it's about what would you do if you had power. How would people with power handle everyday life? There's a beautiful episode and a beautiful scene where one of the characters who has the power of suggestion uses it on her child. and this affects her relationship. And that's a powerful thing to think about. And it really paints a picture of heroes being people. And I think that is what people like to watch. Someone who doesn't like superhero genre can get into something if it's grounded in realism. And just imagine that concept of an all-powerful being. This is someone who used this power to basically get to where they are, and they have a child. And in a lot of ways, they break that bond that they have as a parent and use their ability on their child. I mean, that's a pretty heavy subject, and also brings up a lot of discussion. And that's what I like most about the show. And I know there's not a lot of negatives here. I don't really feel there's a lot of negatives about the show, but my biggest one is just the weirdness factor. If you can get past that and see the show for what it is, then it's great. Also, it's very violent, and there's a lot of language, lots of drug abuse, and things like that. So, as far as the younger audience goes, especially parents who would want to watch this, it wouldn't be something you could watch with your kids, and I think that's another factor too. There is an insane amount of violence. There is an insane amount of language in it. But in my personal opinion, I think it adds to the overall effect of what they're going for with the show. This is a mature look at this genre, and it's nothing that hasn't been done before. There was a movie that called The Watchmen, which was about superheroes who were deeply flawed that kind of fit into this mold. This, however, feels different. This feels like watching kids who start out as kid superheroes and what it would be like when they grow up. Kind of a what happened to them kind of thing. And I'd like them to play with that more in the second season to really see, because they dip into what happened to each of them, but they don't really tell you what caused the overall split. And I'd like that to be explored. And maybe it's done on purpose. I don't know. But anyways, this is a fantastic show. So what's my overall opinion? Just as I said, it's a fantastic show. It's excellent. It's a high budget. By mid-season, they really know what they're going for. The actors are good in the roles. Um, they're funny, they're smart, they're witty. They hit you with the emotion where they need to. They make you invested, they pull you in, and then they keep you coming back. And I think that's the mark of a good show, is whether or not I care about the character development and where they're going, whether or not I care to tune in. Which is funny because Netflix keeps on making more of these shows. They seem to be the place to go now for television. It used to be television could do this, but now with the short format and them releasing every episode at once, you don't have to wait every week, and I think people appreciate that. So, I'd say grab some popcorn, grab your favorite drink, turn on your Netflix, and watch this show. And I would say if you want to fully enjoy it and digest each episode, I'd break it in half. I'd do 5 one day, 5 the other, or even do an episode a day. But either way, you will appreciate the show for everything that it is. Thank you very much for bearing with me here. I know I normally do about 2 or 3 videos a day, but I've been feeling like total and utter crap today. So I don't know if I'll get another video out besides this one, but thank you for everyone who subscribed. I've got 51 viewers, which is amazing. I started at 9, so thank you for all of you who have been subscribing. I know some of you didn't even know about me. You just got an email randomly and checked out the channel. So thanks. I got more content coming. I'm playing with some stuff now to try to edit my videos and make them all snazzy, I guess you would say. And also, too, people responded really well to my rant, so I think I'm going to post another rant. And yeah, I'm coming with some new content. I got the Counterpoint coming, so me and my friend are shooting that. I'm going to have guest movie reviewers, and I'm going to do a lot of other things. It's just finding time to shoot and do all this stuff. So, once again, thank you. If you like me, hit that subscribe button. If you want to get notifications, hit the bell, and tell all of your friends, families, and dogs, pets, cats, parakeets, whoever can hit a keyboard to go ahead and subscribe to me. Thank you very much.